Good morning from Easier Habits Live, your favorite 8 a.m. Central business live stream. So I'm Alec. Meg will be joining us shortly. True story. She's actually doing a free consultation with someone, and I believe I overheard they were talking about the anime Psycho-Pass. So that sounds like fun. But anyway, she's gonna catch up. And today we will be talking about outreach, and we tapped a little bit yesterday into like the various groups that Meg was reaching out to, not only the personal groups but like Facebook, LinkedIn groups, reminding her that there's some groups she probably hasn't tapped into in a while. And here she is.
Sorry.
And so, do you have a communication tip? I have a backup one.
Awesome. Communication tip. Yes. Actually, I do. Kind of what I was just helping someone with is sometimes it takes time for you to answer a question, and it's okay to take that time. That sometimes in English it's a little awkward if we have silence completely. If someone asks a question and you're just like, as opposed to, that's a good question. Let me think about that. Yeah, how would I phrase that? There's different things you can say to kind of fill the time.
I would just say even, that's a good question. Give me a moment.
Yeah, also
right?
that. Yeah, give me a moment. Or, I think sometimes there's a fine balance between, you don't want silence, but you don't want a lot of too much anyways.
Well, and I don't think silence is a bad thing if people are prepared for it.
Also that's true.
Right? If you're just staring at them, they're like, did you hear me?
Yeah. Creepy. But I think also too, even when people are prepared, there's still a limit to the silence. And so if you say, give me a minute, and you have more than, I would say, probably 3 seconds of silence, the other person's going to get a little bit uncomfortable, potentially. Not necessarily, it depends on the context, but there are other filler things that you can use. That's a good question. Let me think. Well, I guess, blah, 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 or something like that. So that should give you at least 5 to 10 seconds of thinking time.
I would just say, get comfortable with silence.
That's a thing, but that's a thing for the individual. You can't make the person who's with you be comfortable with your silence.
Yeah, but at the same time, it depends on the context. On air, right? You don't want dead air, or there's certain things like that. But, in an actual conversation, have I ever felt awkward around somebody who took too much time to answer? And I would have to say the response is never in my life have I felt so awkward because someone was taking too long to answer. And I would say the caveat is, again, if they just didn't respond, I would feel awkward, but I can't remember a time where someone just stared at me in response to something.
Fair enough.
Right.
I think maybe it's not even necessarily the awkwardness, but because of the tendency to not like silence, another person will fill that silence. So maybe you would just come in a few seconds in, or try to rephrase your question or something like that to fill that space, because I very rarely hear silence in other people's conversations.
Well, and that's kind of my point. Our default is so strongly against silence. I don't actually view, I have never had too much silence as a problem, because people never let it get that far.
Yeah.
Except for at a meeting when a head person asks a question. And then everybody, that is the one case, right? Yeah. Where you're at a meeting or a lesson, somebody asks a question and nobody responds.
Yeah.
That would be the one case where...
But if you have something to say and you want to get it out and you want to make sure that the other person allows for that, you have to do something so that they know you are still thinking and engaged in responding, as opposed to you just have no idea. Otherwise, they will fill that silence, because that's what we do as Americans. And so being able to hold off the other side of the conversation with hesitation phrases can give you that time that you need to articulate your thought, is what I was trying to get at more. I mean, yes, we should be comfortable with silence, but we're not. And so how do you deal with that?
Interesting. Well, and it's probably more of an issue for second language learners.
Yes.
Right?
True.
And so for native speakers, yeah, it's like, I can't remember that situation. But I can remember being a non-native Romanian or Japanese speaker. Japanese people are pretty good at waiting.
Oh yeah, Japanese people are great at waiting. But
yeah,
most of my clients are Japanese people, and they're trying to speak English, and Americans are not good at waiting. And so I need to help them understand how to make the other person wait.
Yeah, that's an interesting use case.
Because they won't. And I've seen it happen in so many meetings where the Japanese people, they just get bulldozed over because they're thinking and formulating an answer first. And Americans are just like, whatever, because if you don't say something, then obviously you have nothing to say. It's not true. Anyways.
All right. So today we're thinking about outreach. You've been doing lots of personal outreach. We also talked about the groups and LinkedIn or Facebook that you could reach out to. And I thought it would be good just to do a little bit of brainstorm on what types of messages you could have for your outreach.
Okay, awesome. So the ones that I have been doing so far are ones, like if I've got like a general one, just saying, hey, I've got this 5-day challenge that I'm starting up next week. It is going to just be a quick and dirty way of getting your message that you probably already have in Japanese into English so that you can film it and put it up online for people to see it. And I do it in Japanese, so I'm kind of like awkwardly translating in my brain right now. But that's kind of the generic one. Now, ones that I've used for more specific people are, hey, I know we've done this a few times in our afternoon room, specifically for this one group. I'm doing something a little bit more detailed and intensive for 5 days, and I think it would be useful for you. Would you like to participate? And then for the ones who are not a part of that, but I already know that they're interested in this kind of thing. I know there's a lot of people wanting to put marketing materials together. And I know that you'll probably be thinking about doing this in Japanese. Have you thought about doing it in English? And so I usually kind of open with that. And then if they respond and they're like, oh, I would like to, but I just, well, hey, it may not be, a final solution, but I'm running a 5-day challenge to help you at least kind of get momentum there. And so I've had that conversation. And then there's the ones that I don't think would need it themselves. And for those people, I've sent something out saying, hey, look, I'm doing this 5-day challenge. You may not need it, although if you want to, you're more than welcome to participate. But if you know anybody who is kind of in this, situation of having something in Japanese that they would like to share with the rest of the world, English is a great language for that. And I'm, running the 5-day challenge. So those are kind of the different ways that I've broken down that message.
Yeah. Those are great. I think there's another one, which is just for people, you could even ask them like, hey, I'm running a 5-day challenge. I'm doing my first one this week. I would love your feedback. If you want to practice your pitch, right? Because there's still value in practicing, even if they don't need to learn the English or whatnot. If you'd like to, practice your pitch, I would love to have your feedback.
Yeah. Okay. That's a great one.
So.
Yeah. I'm not great at the asking for, I'm doing this thing for free. You want it because it's good and it's free, as opposed to, making sure that I also have my ask in there, that I would like feedback on it to see, what's useful, what's not, etc. So. Yep.
And you can make asks. A good relationship has give and take. And in a certain sense, you're giving something to somebody, and if they have time, they might, like I said, they might benefit from just the practice.
Yeah.
Practicing your 1-minute pitch, your elevator pitch is actually probably helpful for any business person, native or non-native,
Definitely.
anywhere. So, I think there's a value there, even if it's not targeted at people who are like native speakers.
Yeah.
All right, and that's more of an outreach message for individual people How would you take this to groups without sounding spammy or running afoul of their no promotions?
Yeah. Oh, how would I do that?
Yeah.
A lot of them, they don't have issues if you're doing something for free.
Mm-hmm.
And if there is ever any kind of oh, I'm not so sure about this, then I'll just message an admin and say, hey, I've got this thing that I'm doing. Would this be appropriate or possible? Am I allowed to post this in your group? And so, yeah. But most people or most groups that I've been a part of aren't that, worried about you saying, hey, I'm doing a free thing here. So.
Not my experience.
You have very different groups than I do.
Either different groups or, male-female thing.
Also possible.
People are more open to women talking than guys talking.
Well, yeah. It's gotta love being a white, cis, hetero, American male in a world right now that I love you. It's hard. It can be hard, the different types of reactions that you'll get online. And so I do get very different reactions to the things that I do than you do. For
posting the same thing.
Yep.
Which is interesting. Anyway, so yeah, I guess one of the things is, do you know their posting policy? Do they have days where, promotion days?
Yeah, some of them do actually.
Right.
So some of them, they'll have, what is it? Something Tuesdays, which is actually today. So I need to go and see which one, because I know there's at least two of them that have something on Tuesday. It's gonna drive me crazy. What is that word? Whatever.
That's okay.
Yeah.
So that sounds like an important thing to do today, since your thing is starting next week, and
Yay.
Right, if this is the day where you can do your promotions for free promotions.
Yep.
That would be great. So yeah, you can just straight up do it according to the rules if they allow free things or they have a promotion day. And then there's other types of things, right, without sounding too spammy. You wouldn't do it a series of posts every day saying, in my in preparation for my free course, every day. But you could easily do, after you do a promo one, just being hey, while I was building my course, here's some resources I came across, or here's a common problem that I'm helping solve in my course. So give them a snippet of it in the group for free. And you don't not linking back into the course unless somebody specifically asks for it.
Yep. Yeah, that's a good one. I think you had mentioned something about that yesterday, and I didn't implement that yesterday, but I'm also kind of getting to the point where I'm, running out of new individuals or groups or whatever, and so you hit that kind of critical mass of okay, well, how can I tell people about this without being spammy? And so finding the ones that I maybe haven't messaged for a while and seeing if they're talking about anything similar or related.
Yep. So yeah, I think you have the promo itself. You have at least one reminder piece of content, etc. Plus, you can always, if you have extra time and you're running out of people to contact, you could always just do general content, come up with content marketing plan, with the idea that if people like that, they'll engage with you, and if anyone wants DM you or connect, you'd be at that point you could just invite them.
Yeah, I was thinking about doing a little bit of that today. I put a thing up on Instagram yesterday, just saying, hey, I'm doing this thing, but it was very generic, and I think I want to do a post that's a little bit more specific to help people know what's actually happening, as opposed to 5-day challenge, talk about your thing in English. Okay. So a little bit more specific. So hopefully I can get that up today and see if anyone actually responded to the one I did yesterday.
That'd be great. Yep. And for general types of content, right? What do you have? You have useful resources, a review of somebody else's content or comment or whatever article. You have A great one is like a contrary opinion, like an unusual opinion where you go against the grain. That's always a good one. Like listicles for tips, just a list of tips. A story, and that's a good one to like start building as you're writing out content, building out lists of stories, right? So you said, for example, actually going back to the first the first communication tip, right? Where you mentioned that like you've seen Japanese people get steamrolled in meetings. That would be, I mean, you probably want to anonymize it or whatever, but like have a specific story, right? And if you led with that story, like, you saw this and this is exactly how you could deal with that as a non-native speaker.
Yep.
Like that type of communication, really powerful, and you could easily, do that as a snippet in a post or something.
Yeah, definitely.
So stories. What else is there?
I don't know. I'm still like, I've been awake for like 4 hours, but at the same time, my brain is just
Why did you get up so early?
I don't know.
Okay.
My brain woke up at like just after 4.
Yeah, I guess I didn't sleep that well last night either. So anyway, there's lots of different types of content. Whenever your brain feels empty and you're like, what do I write? I'm sure there's listicles of types of social media posts that you could write.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of different content there. And again, just some of the hooks. You could do some just to provide content and get known. And then, occasionally you could say, if it's true and relevant, like as I was doing this for my upcoming course, I just saw this and I thought it was great and wanted to share it with you guys.
Yeah.
So
I like that.
All right. So business tip of the day. I'm going to move from general focus in work to learning, because learning is something, if you're a solopreneur or early stage startup founder, you're owning a small business, there are so many skill sets that inevitably there's going to be one skill set you have to learn. For a lot of people, unless you've already been doing marketing is one of those things, which is why we're chronicling our journey of learning to do it. It's a challenge. It's a unique skill set. And again, if you're not already doing that for a company before you start a business, it's one of the big hurdles. But there's others like finances and technical stuff, etc. So websites and tools, So there's lots of other things. So there's going to be a lot of things to learn. And my tip of the day is just as important as what you need to learn, because there's a lot, is what you don't need to learn. And I was telling Meg yesterday that I was, as I was talking with my kids about math, and I had this random memory from like 6th grade algebra, where my teacher was introducing functions, and I felt like I didn't understand them at all, because I knew that like you put a number in and you get a number out, a different number out, but how does it change the number? What's the mechanism by which it works? And like my teacher never said like you don't need to worry about how the function changes. It's just like let's assume it magically changes the number in this consistent way. And so it was a very random thing. My 6-year-old brain or whatever was thrown by that, and eventually I just realized like no one cares about how it works. Like that's not the point.
Yep.
The point is just it does this consistently. Anyway, that was just one of those areas where like my brain was working super hard on something it did not need to be thinking about. And at that point, I didn't have the mental capacity to think, what do I not need to know?
Yeah.
Now, fast forward to university, and I was taking a stats class. And normally, when you take a university class, you have like a fat notebook about, what is it, like, or a textbook about like 300, 400, maybe more pages, right? And you're not going to be tested on everything in that book, and you're not going to cover everything in that book in the class, but you've got to cover enough of it. And like a lot of teachers take, and I hate this, and I think it's stupid. But like they take the approach of, I'm going to test you on 25 or 50% of the chapter, but I want you to know it all. And what I'm trying to do is like to get you to learn more than I can cover in my class by letting you not know what stuff is going to be tested or not. And so I had one stats, and this was just like a grad student who was teaching his own class. He had his own textbook, which normally, I mean, in a professor, like one in a grad student is unheard of, but two, in a professor, that's like a warning sign because they're even more attached to everything, the idea that you should learn everything in the book. Mm-hmm. Well, he did want us to learn everything in his book, but his textbook was, like, I kid you not, like 60 to 80 pages.
Yay!
He had literally cut out everything you did not need to know. And so he said, look, I have cut this down, so everything in this we're going to cover. Everything in this will be on the test, and you need to know it, but you don't need to know anything that is not in this book. He had carved out all the things you don't need to know. I have never mastered math as well for a class as I have for that, because it was absolutely clear not only what you needed to know, but what you did not need to know.
Yeah.
And so that's the huge difference. And so anywhere you can do that in your business, right? What do you need to know about marketing, and what do you not need to know about marketing?
Definitely.
And to a certain extent, we've separated that. For example, you're focusing on the outreach, and I am doing the ads, and I'm focusing just on Facebook, right? I'm carving out the things I don't need to know right now. We might switch from Facebook, as there is one piece of news. We did get leads from our ad. We paid about $34 and got 2 leads, but Facebook won't give those leads to us because it requires us to accept some terms, but does not accept our acceptance of those terms. So we're like, all right, should we just pay twice as much and advertise on LinkedIn? I actually reached out to one of the Facebook people in charge of Meta Business Suite about this bug specifically, and we'll see if it gets fixed. But
Hopefully.
Anyway, but yeah, it's helpful tag teaming it so that we can focus on different things. We've used consultants to help with that, right? So there are things that we don't have to learn; they can learn it for us and tell us, etc. But just ask yourself the question: what do I not need to learn?
Exactly.
All right. So until tomorrow, make big changes, one small habit at a time.